I feel like the reason why Vance doesn't really win this debate is because as we watch it, Vance was expected to come into this debate and just kind of be like a crazy, kooky loser, but he speaks very well. I think it's like a typical politician speaking on a debate stage. I think he actually outperforms Walz. I think he's done better than Walz in this debate, but Trumples don't care about that. The problem is that he's not really pushing up negatives on the Democratic side. Like, Democrats will look at Vance and go, oh, he's not as crazy as I thought he'd be tonight, but they're not voting for Trump. And Trump's own base only wants to see a man in orange paint throw feces at his opponent. So Vance isn't really helping anybody, I think, on the Trump side either. So because Trump has like mind rotted the MAGA base so much, I don't know if Vance having a good performance where all he's doing is agreeing a lot with Walz and saying, oh yeah, he's reasonable and we're cool or whatever. I don't think that I don't know if that helps much with Trump's base. What Destiny just described is how out of touch he is with MAGA and how emotionally filled his opinion is. Such a reach. Considering emotionally filled, the fact of the matter is that your candidate and his vice president running mate on his ticket right now, neither of them will acknowledge the outcome of the last election. That disqualifies the majority of you, in my opinion, from even being able to vote again for at least like 3 elections. You should be banned, maybe even have your citizenship revoked, because I don't even know if you're a f***ing American at this point. I would rather ship in 500,000 dog-eating Haitians than have some that doesn't even believe the election was real because they're so mad that their ass-pained orange clown didn't get to win like he wanted to. So, I mean, you can call it what you want, but the reality is you guys are delusional. Like, you still live in a fantasy land, and nobody's ever made you reckon with that, and it should happen. It's insane. It's unhinged. 2A supporters got to vote Republicans here, unfortunately. Why? Because you're or have you shot yourself in the face with your gun multiple times and there's like not enough brain in there left to make a coherent decision? You understand that Donald Trump passed gun control legislation or through executive order when he was in office, right? You know that the bump stock ban happened under Donald Trump, right? You know that nothing happened under Obama, right? Like, why would you trust Donald Trump with guns? If a bad enough school shooting happens and it's unpopular enough with his base, who, by the way, now fucking hate cops and everything anyway, Donald Trump could be worse on guns than a Democrat would be. You have no fucking idea. Remember, at the end of the day, this is a dude from fucking New York, okay? You think Trump is some huge advocate of the Second Amendment? You're crazy. You're delusional. As opposed to Democrats who want to ban pretty much all guns. Good one. You know what's really crazy is I lived in Omaha, Nebraska under my 8 years of Obama, where all the ammunition stores would have all these, or the gun stores would have all these sales on ammunition and everything. And guess what? Obama never banned guns. Isn't that crazy? We just had 4 years of Biden, and guess what? Biden never banned guns. Isn't it crazy that how much you guys fearmonger over banning guns and it still hasn't happened? Isn't that weird?
Coalition that Kamala Harris.
No communism either, huh?
From Bernie Sanders.
So much blind hate today, Stephen. Not cool. What hate that I just gave you was blind? I literally just gave a justification for everything. You look at the conclusion. If you don't like the conclusion, you're like, wow, that sure was reasoned poorly. Why? Well, because I disagree with it. The big issue is that Trump just doesn't know how government works. So it's hard for him to even do anything effective in government. He has no idea. He doesn't know what the 3 branches of government are for. He probably doesn't know how a bill gets passed. He doesn't know the difference. He probably doesn't know what a tariff is. He doesn't know what the difference is between the trade deficit or the budget deficit or the national debt. He wouldn't be able to explain those things. If you ask him what a trade deficit is, who's the deficit to, he wouldn't be able to answer that. The problem is that Trump is an idiot, right? So it's hard to say, like, well, what did he... look at like he might do some things okay by chance, but do you feel like Trump or Harris is going to win this election? I mean, I feel like Harris is going to win it, but the problem is it's not even that even if she wins, it's not. The issue is you have all these mind rotted, like retarded fucks that are like rotting our country right now. These anti-American, like anti-patriotic, like America hating people that hate this country and hate every part of like what the country was founded upon, who are now like just here to rot their children's minds, to be a rot in the Republican Party, to be a rot on our media landscape. I don't know. I'm not sure. Donald Trump is smarter than you. I'm pretty sure my IQ is over 85, so I don't think he is. I would bet money that Trump's IQ is legitimately less than 100. I think he's probably like decently below average intelligence, just from the way that he talks, his incapability of speaking about anything with any sort of understanding or intelligence. I don't think I've ever in my entire life heard him speak about anything. I'm like, oh, at least he knows this or understands this. Even real estate, I don't think I've heard him say. I mean, but we just look at his business record when it comes to that. If Donald Trump hadn't had The Apprentice, none of you would even know who he was. You would have no idea. Donald Trump his brand is literally being a brand. It's I guess in a way it's like the perfect example of a simulacrum or of the fall of the Conservative Party, that they voted for a guy whose brand was having a brand. That was the brand of Trump. Nobody from Omaha, nobody buys Trump steaks and think they're good. Nobody knew what the Trump University was and think that it's a oh shit, I'm gonna go get educated here. Trump Tower and the hotels were kind of interesting in like a gaudy kind of way, and like a red tie and on a black suit kind of way. But
speaking to relatives, talking to so many people that refuse to acknowledge that Trump tried to overturn the last election, or alternatively refuse to acknowledge that it's very clear it was not stolen. What would you say? Like, what is your go-to pitch whenever you speak to like kind of that standard, like well-meaning family member who just doesn't get it?
Catch you on the other side of the Civil War. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like it's delusional. Yeah. The fact that like you want the left to take ownership over like some random fucking pet project or some, trans person who shouldn't have been trans, and you guys are responsible for this and blah, blah, but they won't even acknowledge like the reality of what's happened in past events. It's like, it's a joke. It's an actual joke.
Right. I mean, I suppose the evidence is just in the court cases, right? I mean, that's what I always point to. It's like, well, y'all lose they come out like every week and they're like undeniable evidence.
The problem is that none of them believe this. Don't stop fucking doing that. Don't do that. You're doing it and Pisco does it and everybody does it. Stop pretending like they're making real arguments. They're not. It's that Voltaire quote or whatever where they delight in like playful argument. They don't give a about any of this, right? A conservative will tell you, you can indict a ham sandwich. Okay. Oh, a conviction? Yeah. Well, the courts are rigged. And then they'll come out and they'll show you a fucking affidavit from some state court in a case that wasn't even fucking filed, and they'll pretend it's good as gold. Okay. They don't give a about the standards for any of this shit. Oh, is it conviction? Was it bad? Well, I don't know. Was my guy convicted or was their guy convicted? Oh, well, when they convict their guys, that Hunter Biden case, that was 100% good that they convicted him. I'm glad. All the Trump ones, though, those are totally phony and bogus. Right. The Trump impeachment is bull. I can't even believe they would try that. The Biden impeachment is good. I can't believe the House isn't voting on it. It's evidence of corruption. Like there's no consistency whatsoever. Well, there is. Right. I'm so sorry. I lied because I'm an idiot. There is consistency. The consistency is just if it's on Trump's side, it's always good. And if it supports Trump, it's always good. And if it's against Trump, it's always bad. And if it's not on his side, it's always bad. That's the only consistency. Don't ever play into the conservative delusion that there's any other type of argument that they're proffering there, because they never are. It's always Sorry.
Well,
no, one of the things that Micah was touching on, and because I don't know, part of me feels like this is going to be one, like a lot of this stuff is one in a decentralized way. Like, don't get me wrong, like your narrative on when you're going after these influencers, these people that have mega platforms, like that's absolutely the way I think you should go for it. I'm thinking of like when I'm talking to like my dad or like a friend of mine, like they don't really have a deep or rich understanding of all the nuance here, and I feel like if you can kind of put some really clear evidence in front of them and say, look, this is thing that you just watched on TikTok the other day, and here's some court cases that you can look at or some evidence. I think those people could be won over. And that's really what I'm curious for you. I mean, for me, it's like the fake elector scheme, I think, is like the clearest example of Trump trying to subvert the election. But I'm curious as to like, in those types of conversations, do you feel like there's just any piece of information that if you put it in front of somebody that is able to be moved, it's just super clear?
I'm in the influencer world, so I'm like arguing with people online. So my takes are a lot more doomer than what a normal person should be. I'm so sorry. I think that if you can get in front of a person and show them, people like Candace Owens and Tim Pool should legitimately be stripped of their citizenship and deported to a fucking island. I'm not joking. I'm not joking when I say that. Joe Rogan, I'm like 50-50 on, okay? But if you can get enough evidence, and it has to be an abundance of, a lot of evidence in front of a person, and like have an open mind and not be combative, and you're friendly and like you have a whole ass conversation. The problem is it's not the fault necessarily of most conservatives, right? Are you guys both atheists?
Agnostic atheist, yeah.
If you heard God talking to you in your head right now, would you assume that it was really God, or would you assume that you're like going crazy?
Honestly, even if I was a Christian, I would not assume that God was just talking to me.
Yeah, that's like, it's an issue. It's actually a really strong. I'm a big atheist, but it's a really strong challenge to an atheist. It's like, oh, okay, you believe in God, right? It's like, yeah, of course I would if I had some evidence for it. Okay, well, let's say that God comes down and appears in front of you and talks to you. Do you believe in God now? Well, no, I'd probably assume I'm going insane. Okay, well, what if your friend comes in and he's talking to your friend? I'm like, it's probably more likely that I'm dreaming. That God actually comes out, right? Well, at some point you realize, okay, holy, I'm actually so into this like materialist, physicalist, atheist world. I don't know if I actually could ever be shown evidence of God existing. And the issue with conservatives is they built up such an epistemically powerful echo chamber that, like, okay, well, look at these court docs. Well, the courts, they're rigged. Okay, well, what about when, like, the people in Congress, really? Politicians, congressmen? Okay, well, even people like McCarthy, he's a rhino now. We don't trust him anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about, like, when even the Supreme Court ruled it, the courts, the ones that wouldn't even hear, Texas v. Pennsylvania, they didn't even look into the evidence. Trump's already told me that those are corrupt. Okay, well, like, you're like depending on how strong they're in it, like every single evidence piece you show them is always furthering whatever thing they believe in. There's no way to pull them out. You can't show them or do anything. They're trapped, but they are. You can pull them out. You just have to try harder. I'm Doomer. I'm sorry. I'm online. Okay, I deal with.
No. It's good. I understand why you would be in that mindset. I don't blame you for that at all. I'm from the deep south, so I'm surrounded by Trump supporters all the time. I've got some of them in my family, right? So I'm thinking about like how do you make those compelling narratives that can maybe pull those people away. And Mike, you may want to chime in on this. One of the groups that I really appreciate right now is Sarah Longwell from the Bulwark and the work that the Republican Accountability Project is doing, because what they're basically doing is they're giving Republicans like an anti-Trump identity, but they're not forcing them to be Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
So they're allowing people that off-ramp. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the work that they're doing, but I mean, I'm convinced that like they're basically putting out all these ads that are like, hey, I voted for Trump for 3 times, but after January 6th.
3 times.
Or 2 times, sorry. Yeah, I voted for him twice. You can vote in a primary. There's my 3 times.
Got him.
But, you know, he's basically giving them an identity, saying, look, January 6th was really bad. They're running these ads in all these swing states. And I think it's really, really important work. And I'm convinced center-right voters, if you can peel enough of them away in these swing states, you can win. You can defeat Trumpism, at least this time. I think it's existential in this moment that people of our political persuasion find a way to crack the code to pull people out of these fringe ideologies and back into normalcy. So I'm curious as to, just in the broad strokes, you touched on this a little bit, but how do you feel like we can get better at doing that? Just in the broad strokes, like anything that you found that just works or doesn't work?
Treat conservatives like they deserve to be treated. Treat them like children. When they say stupid shit, they need to be called out and held to account for these things, and they can't be allowed to walk out. There is no reasonable conversation to have with a conservative who won't live in reality, and people shouldn't pretend to do that anymore. Find other people to bring on and have the conversation with. It's just ridiculous. And then if that fails and we end up splitting, I think I'm also in favor of. I'd vote yes on this. Let's split the country in 2, and we'll go 20 years. Okay, all the MAGA go to one side and all of the other people go to the other side, and we'll see in 20 years where we're at, and then whoever's doing better, you get to rule the other country, and the other side loses the ability to vote for a generation. Fuck you. And we'll just do that. We'll see how, when you have people like Alex Jones as the head of your science department, when people like Joe Rogan are the heads of your media and cultural centers, when your Giuliani's and your Sidney Powell's are the heads of your Department of Justice, we'll see what you guys can do. We'll see what you accomplish. We'll see what you get done. And, if your country sucks in 20 years, if you end up being a massive drain like all the red states are and the blue states are right now economically, yeah, if you end up being that, then in 20 years you just lose your right to have a say in things, and you just sit down and shut the up and let everybody else try to move the country forward. Because right now it's like trying to drive the Titanic with 7 boat anchors.
I mean, when you look at the metrics from red states, I think you're objectively correct. And RFK, as in charge of like
vaccines,
anything related to health, is a horrifying prospect. Absolutely horrifying prospect. Okay, well, listen, we'll try to moderate.
RFK, that's the guy who is crying recently because he's trying to get his name back on the ballot in states that will hurt Democrats, right? Supporting the same party that was crying about playing games with the ballot before and saying it was anti-democratic, right? Just checking, right? That RFK, that's one you're talking about?
Yep, New York, I just saw that article like a couple days ago.
Gotcha. The guy who had brain worms that died of starvation in his head? I remember that guy. Okay.
the guy who has like 5 different dead animals scandals each week.
Chainsawing of the humpback whale and traumatizing his kids. What a great role model.
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right, bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.